excited to introduce to you one of our own here today, and somebody
hey, buddy.
who really
thank you for being here. This is so cool.
Happen without Greg Aden is going to be presenting, and I'd love to tell you a lot about Greg, but I know somebody here who's a close friend of his who has much more that they can share about him that maybe I didn't know. So I'm going to pass the microphone over to David.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm David Hughes, and I'm a friend of Greg, and we are in a networking group together. And I have a confession. I am not a coach.
Woo! Yay! Yes! Woo!
I have another confession. I'm an engineer.
Whoa!
Don't be discouraged, guys, but you've been infiltrated. That's what I hear. But you know, I've known Greg for a little bit here, and I've got a resume here, and it's really not that interesting. I am an engineer. Yes. You know what I say? Can't spell geek without double E. So Greg earned his bachelor's at Fort Lewis College, and he's been in the hospitality industry for 25 plus years, financial services for 5+ years. He's earned numerous awards and done everything. But I have to tell you something, that's really the boring part. About 3 or 4 years ago, Greg had a transformation, which has led him to where he is right now. And it's an incredible story. Probably you can hear about it another day, or some of you probably know the story already. But through his Aconcagua project, he realized that he was on the wrong path, and he changed that path and has devoted himself to become a leadership coach. And his true calling is to help people, to share his successes with people, and to get them to another level. And me being an engineer, I have to tell you, I am really a coach cynic. I don't believe in it. I really don't. But then I talked to Greg a little bit, and he has showed me what they have to offer. And I like to use the analogy of a golfer. And one of my favorite golfers out there is Rickie Fowler. And he has done something this year that only 2 other men have ever done, and that is to be in the top 5 of the 4 major golf championships. And he did that through help of a new coach this year. He got a new coach last December and transformed his game and really took it to a higher level. And it amazes me when executives out there, people that are in my position, trying to run a company, trying to run a firm, say, we don't need a coach. We don't need help. We are here because we know what we're doing. Well, that's not what the coaching is all about. And Greg's going to tell us a little bit more about that. But coaches can really help you change perspective and take you to another level. And with that, Greg, I'd like you to teach us a little bit more about the service leadership.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, David. I'm going to ask you guys a question, and then I'm going to give you some good music to listen to think about it. I want you to ask yourselves and the person next to you, and you're going to have to talk close because the music's going to be loud. Why are you here? Why are you right here, right now? And then why are you at this conference? And then I want you to ask yourself the third question in the same vein is, what are you going to do when you leave today? All right, so have that discussion amongst yourselves. I'm going to put on some music, and there's a prize for the person that can guess the name of the song, the movie that made it famous, and the main actor in the movie. Think about that while you're having the conversation with the other people. Did you ask him a question?
We're stuck on the music, you know.
Yeah. Why are we here? Figure out this freaking song.
So let's get.
Hold on, we're straight, so they have.
So let's get. What are you gonna do, like?
Okay. All right. So back up here for a second, if you would. First of all, name of the song.
I don't know, but it's Celtic. I was going to Shazam it.
Bagpipes. It's the band starts with an A, 4 letters. AC/DC, right? That's one. No. The Aconcagua? No. The name of the song, it's A Long Way to the Top, if you want to rock and roll. The music, the name of the movie was School of Rock. And the main actor? Jack Black. See, that's leadership right here. Everybody's working together. The reason I did a little bit of music prior to me is because what you just experienced usually sucks the energy out of you, and that's lunch. Sometimes we eat too much, or we lay down afterwards. So there'll be other exercises to keep us awake as well. As you've already been introduced, I'm Greg, Aden, and instead of talking about coaching, I'm going to act like I don't know anything about coaching, because I really don't. I know a lot about sales and development, and I know a lot about service. So what we're going to talk about today is leadership steeped in service. And if you think about leadership steeped in service, I want you to imagine that you have a tea bag in front of you. A tea bag. I don't care if it's black, orange, green, mint, herby, latte, whatever it is. And you can create whatever you want in that tea bag. That'll be leadership, okay? And then what do you do with a tea bag to really bring it to life? You use hot water, and you let it steep. Some of us let it steep for a minute. Some of it let it steep for an hour or so. It just depends. Usually 2 minutes. The point I'm trying to make is the two together make a beautiful blend of whatever you want that to be, and that's service and leadership. So have that mental picture as we go through this. What do you want your leadership to look like? And what do you want it to taste like, so to speak, or feel like to the people you're working with? I didn't invent servant leadership. I certainly didn't coin the phrase service leadership. Robert Greenleaf did back in 1970, and I'll just let you read that for a second. Builds better organizations, which is what service leadership is about. It's not customer service, guys and gals. It's about service within the organizations. How do we care for, love, and serve one another? And if we can do that inside our families, inside our relationships, inside our partnerships, then we can do that to the people that actually are buying our products and our services. That's the magic in my mind, or my opinion, around service leadership. It's not customer service, in a way. It's serving the people inside. And it creates a more just and caring world. And we've heard a lot about caring for one another, and emotions, and relationships, and connections, and observers yet this morning, and we're only halfway through the day. So, again, leadership has a lot to do with relationships. Quick exercise, real quick, if you will. Management on the left, leadership on the right. I have some up here from a previous workshop, if you will. Process, this for management. Process, execute, detail-oriented, problem-solving, tactical, scientific, my way or the highway, autocratic, forceful, follows rules, organized. Sound familiar as far as management is concerned? All right, on the right, if you can't see it over there, motivational, inspiring, people-focused, powerful, full of integrity, engaging, lighthearted, passionate, enthusiastic, communicator, visionary, and dreamer. Anybody want to add any words to our list as far as management or leadership? Yes, sir.
Listening for leadership.
Beautiful.
Curious for leadership.
Curious.
Visionary.
Visionary.
Alignment.
Alignment.
Clarity.
creating change.
Investing in others.
Changing. How about that for just putting the words together? Just changing, creating change. I heard flexible. You get the idea, right? And as my good friend Stephen McGee taught me a long time ago, are these attributes or are these skills? They're both, but predominantly they're attitudinal or attributes. These are choices we make every single day. And what I focus on is impact and influence and inspiration in my coaching. You impact through words and you influence through relationships. We'll get into that in just a second. So of these two, which has the most room, if you will, for service? Management or leadership? Leadership. It's kind of a rhetorical question, but just because we're filming it, I have to ask. So here's your next exercise. If you have anything in front of you to write on, just do this simple little cross for me. Management on the left, or west. Leadership over here on the east. Selfless to the north. And selfish to the south. And I want you to be really, really honest with yourself. And I'm going to ask 4 or 5 people to point themselves out to us, if you will. Where are you on this graph today? If you're in management, but you'd love to be in leadership, and you know it, you might be here. If you're a little bit selfish, but you're selfless at times, you could be right smack in the middle. But ask yourself, where are you today? The follow-up question is going to be, where will you be in 90 days? Based on what you hear today, what you read, what you dream about, and how you practice the attributes of service leadership. And Brad, I'm going to pick on you first. Where would you be, young man?
I'd say it's definitely on the leadership continuum, and I'd actually put myself that far down on the selfish.
Okay. We won't ask Brad Billingsley why he put himself there, because it doesn't matter. That's just where Brad is. Mary Gail, where are you? Well, other than sitting next to Dina.
I would say I'm in the right upper corner.
Right in here? Okay. Robin?
The northeast quadrant.
Okay, excellent. And Robin, your last name? Okay. One more. Mr. Lyle.
In that quadrant, but probably on the leadership line.
Down in here? Now, I love the phrase going northeast. I don't love Boston or New York or Connecticut or Rhode Island and all that. I love the opportunity to go from the southwest. Lord knows most of us aren't here. We would not be in this room if we were selfish and stuck in management. I'm just using this as an illustration. But in 90 days, if you could be here, or if you're Tad, in 90 days, if you could be here, I would guess Tad's full of leadership, but recognizes he could be a little more selfless, perhaps. Not just...
I just got off the phone with my wife. That's why I answered that way.
Okay. So, all kidding aside, right? Here's Tad's heart, and he knows it's full of love, and that's why he's here, to share it with us, right? Thanks, Tad. Tad's little brother, Kirk, and I went to Fort Lewis together. In fact, Kirk and Steve were suite mates, and I moved in January and became Kirk's friend. And now Tad and I are connected as well. So think about this as you go through the next 90 days. Where are you and where will you be based on actions and changes that you'll make in your life, okay? And that gives us a little space for growth. The conference is Unleash the Authentic Leader Within. What would that look like for you? And I've got something up here that just kind of outlines authentic in a unique way. Gives you something to kind of visualize as we go through the day. But if you were to sincerely unleash your authentic leader, what would that look like? Attitudes and habits, unlocking passion, trust and rapport, holding on to your vision, empathy, natural skills and abilities, temperament and behavioral style, inspired, character and emotion, and maturity. That's one way of looking at authentic, other than the word authentic being real.
What about values?
How much?
Values?
Values? If values is important to you as far as being authentic, then Helly, I think the question is, what would it look like for you? Maybe it would have a significant amount around values. Anybody else? And I'll leave this up here if anyone at the end wants to. I'm going to write on that one and leave this one up for the most of the day. So if you need that. Okay? All right. How you create leadership steeped in service, it just doesn't happen. We create it. We create it every day in the way we speak, the words we use, the behavior we have, and the relationships that are in our life. And at this point, think about your relationships, whether you're at home or you're at work. And a lot of us can be this way at work and this way at home. Why do you plan and get detail-oriented at work, and then when it comes to helping out, planning a weekend, planning a vacation, planning something else at home, it's like you just forget about it. So if you're in your integrity, if you will, with your behavior and your relationships, you're this way at home and you're this way at work, and vice versa. Just something to think about. The why. The why is why we're here. And I asked you guys to talk about it during, if you want to get to the top, you need to rock and roll. So let me hear some conversation that took place during that why you're here. Kim, why are you here today?
Well, originally I came because I was speaking.
Right.
So, but why I'm really here is I want to open more of my own authenticity. So the topic was really interesting to me to find that in myself too.
Beautiful. Michelle?
Invited by you, thank you, and then also exploring coaching. I've been told I have coaching tendencies and didn't know what that looks like.
Absolutely. And I just started coaching in January. So I think coaching tendencies to me, someone not being a lifer, so to speak, is someone that has some of those attributes. There's empathy, there's compassion, there's listening, there's interest in another. I will tell you from where I'm sitting, the why I do what I do is I was so into myself. David was nice enough not to go through all the awards and all the accolades and all the whatevers, but that's because I had my head so far in my you-know-what. I couldn't see clear. I certainly wasn't hearing very well, and I couldn't see the best in myself, because when your head is in that particular place, we all know that's definitely not the best place to put your head. But the only thing you think about, the only thing you care about is you. And when you're selfish and arrogant and egotistical and borderline narcissist, the last thing you could possibly do is think about someone else. I thought I was. That's what was scary. I was the best franchise sales and development guy the world's largest hotel company ever saw. I've got all the awards to prove it. In fact, one night, January 2008, I'm in San Antonio winning everything. They called me back on stage, and I thought to myself, there's no more awards to win. I'm feeling uncomfortable. My good friend and my boss at the time had me stand at the edge of the stage, and he started talking about this person. I'm like, well, my golly, this person's describing someone I know very well. And this person is mainly how I am and how I could become, and has a big part of my life. So the first time in IHG's history, they gave an award to Sales Mom of the Year. And my mom happens to be here today. And they haven't given that award out since then. And it was 2 years after that, almost to the day, then I decided that wasn't the life for me. Money, prestige, awards, and at what cost? And I know some of you are probably going, yeah, I've been there. Or I married someone like that, and I don't marry him again, or I didn't marry her again. But that's what happens. So through coaching 2 years with Stephen, the Aconcagua experience, getting married, getting pregnant, and adopting a young guy all at the same time, completely overwhelming. but not for Greg Aden, because he can handle everything. Just ask him. But it's hard to handle everything when your head is in your arse. Right? So I've completely pulled it out. I've decided how... Thank you. It's kind of an ugly visual, but it'll be a big chapter in my book. Trust me. All right, I won't mention it again, I promise. I look it up right. And it's a very awkward position if you think about it, right? I don't know how I did what I did with that so far in my... Anyway. That's why I do what I do. Because I've seen the other side. And I love serving people. And with all the sales awards I got, I recognized when asked to speak publicly about it, how did you do all the quantity? It wasn't about selling. It was about serving. So a part of me was actually doing a lot of great things for a lot of wonderful people. In fact, I just got back from a Hilton Hotel and Resorts conference in Orlando, where I was asked to come in and facilitate a group there, which was kind of cool, and see some clients. And it was really humbling to hear all of their franchisees, who are also our franchisees back in IHG, which is Holiday Inn, Holiday Inn Express, Staybridge, Candlewood, and all that, to say, thank you. You gave me my first start with the Holiday Inn Express or Candlewood. So I know I did great things then, but why am I really here? To be a dad? Absolutely. To be a great partner someday again? Absolutely. But what can I give back? And to me, coaching, especially leadership coaching, is all about giving back, serving other people. And servant leadership is about serving first, leading second. And that's really a big distinction. Because leadership, even today, some of it, especially the stuff that's so tightly connected to management, is still about the person on top, or the top of the pyramid, or on the 31st floor. We've all been to those offices. They're the most important people in the world. Just ask them. Really? You're up here with 15 of your peers with the same titles, but meanwhile, the people that really make it happen for this company are on the 2nd, 3rd, 13th, 15th. You should be with your people, maybe in a corner office, but next to them. So you can hear them, feel them, smell them, touch them, and be one of them. And by the way, if you're on the floor with them, what can you do with them and to them all day if you want to? Serve. Unadulterated service. And in my humble opinion, if you care for someone, you will love them. If you love that person, you will serve them. Steve and I agree on this. You know, the highest rung on the ladder of consciousness is to serve someone, or service. Whoops. So how do we communicate our needs and receive the needs of others? Are we present? Are we aware? Are we in tune? Todd and I and others had a conversation around the predictors of success. And if you look it up, there's a long word I'll try and say that they say is the #1 predictor of success. And it's conscientiousness. Conscientiousness. And Todd says, no, I think it's being present. So I asked the 12 partners in our Aconcagua business partnership, and we came up with maybe 15 words. And being present, spirit, God, trust, loyalty, passion are all up there. How many moms and how many dads in the room? How many? Keep your hands up if your kids are 10 or less, please. How important is it to be present with that age? I have a 3-year-old son and a 5-year-old son. And they hardly know how to say this. Put your frickin' phone down. But they don't have to say it, do they? All they have to do is look at you. And they give you this, really? Look? Or you're driving, you come to a stop sign, what's the first thing that we want to do? Busy, really important people, right? I'm not going to text and drive, but I'm going to text and stop. And we do this, and you look in the rearview mirror. And there's these 4 little eyes. Seriously, Dad? Now what do we do to appease and coddle and those kids now? and especially in the big SUVs. And if you have them, God bless you. If you don't, let's give them a TV so they can watch everything that we didn't even know existed while we're ignoring them. Does parenting and leadership have anything to do with each other? You know what? At 52 with a 3- and a 5-year-old, trust me, I know they're interconnected, and they will be for life. So God's given me 2 wonderful gifts and power to pull my head out. And now I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life and build on what I'm doing today. I think service leadership or servant leadership is one of the most important things that we can do for one another, our relationships, our organizations, and quite frankly, the betterment of the planet. And if you disagree, my email address is on the first slide and on this last slide. And we'll talk about it. It's not just what we say, it's how we say it. We've all talked about it. We all say it. And I've already made the connection between work and home. And I love this. Everybody wants to say, how can I help you? And I'm a sarcastic guy with a dry sense of humor. You've probably already connected to that. So sometimes when I hear, how can I help you? I ask them in my inner voice, I don't know, can you? How about this one? How may I serve you? So if you're comfortable getting up just for 25 seconds, and I want you to practice this just for a second. Pick a partner, stand up, look in each other's eye, and ask the question, how may I serve you? This may be the first time you've asked somebody this question. But like we heard today, if we don't do it once, we're not going to do it twice. And if we don't do it twice, we can't do it for the rest of our lives. And if you don't like it, then don't say it again. But let's try it. Everybody stand up and look someone in the eye and ask, how may I serve you? I may serve you.
That's a good question.
Let me know.
I will. You're doing great.
All right, coaches, lovers, servers, back to our seats. Release the hounds. Okay, stop the hugging. Stop the gazing. Isn't laughter awesome? Love, what is it? Drugs, sex, rock and roll? How about love, laughter, and music? I don't know. I think it'd be great. So how was that experience? Awkward? Not really, right? Especially if you meant it. And I was in a workshop the other day and I asked them to think about this next one. Listen, and with your eyes too. You would have thought I was talking to a group of Martians. Well, why pay attention to someone when you're asking them how you may serve them and they're getting ready to tell you? The easy part is to ask somebody. The difficult part is to what? Listen. And with these are always going to hear you, but this means I get you. I will provide that.
I thought it was harder to ask for service or to tell somebody else how they can serve me. That was hard.
Harder to ask?
When they asked, when somebody asks, it's hard for me to say.
How many, the comment was it was harder for us to respond to the question.
That was hard.
Anybody have that same experience? Could it be we're used to how can I help you?
Yep.
And here's another analogy that I'd like to throw at you, and then I'll come back to this question. We ask this question all the time, how you doing? Up north or to the northeast, how you doing? They don't really care. It's just something we ask people when we walk by them. It's an obligatory, how are you doing? Good, great, average, okay, blah, no emotion, no feeling. Feeling, wow. How about that interesting question? How about this one? Brad, how you feeling today? sad, happy, enthusiastic, embarrassed, frustrated. Now, I'm not saying we have, hang on a minute, let me pull out my feeling wheel and go to, I'm feeling kind of low purple today, or upper red. But again, if we got used to really caring about how are you feeling today, we might get a great response. Just part of serving versus just something I need to do. Now imagine again, some of this stuff might be awkward at work, at least today. When this stuff really starts to take off and get into the organizations around the world, it won't be so weird. You're going to say, you know, on October 17th, I was at a conference, and this weird guy with blonde hair that had his head in his ass most of his life said, this might take off. But here's where it starts. It starts right here, with us asking people, how may I serve you, and caring and knowing about it and it being real. Why not? Why not us? Why not the coaching profession to really put feeling into what we do? And I'm sure you're all present, extremely present with your clients. We tell each other we are. We listen. We're present. Judy Saba next door is a master at being present. She's a master at listening. 20-some years she's been in this business. I've learned more from her in 2 hours of mentor coaching than I have about listening, I can't remember when. But she comes from a place of this is how we coach. This is what you do. How do you go deeper? You go deeper with all of your senses, and you listen with your eyes too. It's important to me. That's why I spend some time on it. And now let me be authentic here for a second. If you're in a relationship and you're not doing this, bottom one, please consider changing it or shifting it and how you listen. It has made a significant impact on my relationships. Okay. So we know the why. We've kind of talked about the what. But so what? What would all this do for us? Inspired relationships. Is that enough for you? Isn't relationships the essence of everything we do? Man and wife, father and daughter, mother and son, partners, people we work with. If we could language, behave, and relate at this level, and all we got out of it was inspired relationships, would that be enough? Would that be a good enough investment for 70 minutes? If that's the only thing you take out of this is, I could possibly have a more inspired relationship. But the why starts with the question I asked in the very beginning, and you heard Julio speak it this morning. It's about self. It's about yourself. How are you going to adjust and how are you going to shift yourself to be more powerful, to be more inspirational, to be all those attributes of leader? Then you add the element of service into it. We'll touch deeper on that in a second. Critical. All righty. Couple opportunities here. A great opportunity to find out how do you occur to others is to ask them. And ask them because you really care and you really want to know. If you haven't done this exercise, please try it. Pick about 7 or 8 people that are in your world, maybe other coaches, a spouse, maybe someone in your family, your kids, if they're 16 and north, they kind of get this stuff, and ask them, hey, Stephen, how do I occur to you? And be ready for the truth, because that's what you want. The truth will set you free, but it'll also set you on a trail of, I didn't know I came across arrogant. I didn't know I was tardy. I didn't realize I seemed uncaring at times. But these people are going to help shape how you truly occur to other people. And I don't know how we can coach. I don't know how we can relate. I don't know how we can serve people if we don't kind of understand the foundation of how we occur to other people. So what's important now that you've got 7 lists from 7 people or 6 people is your list of yourself. Make sure you do this for yourself as well and ask yourself, how do I occur to others? And then see how many qualities and attributes are actually on both sides. The other thing is an I am statement. How many people have an I am statement? I know Todd does, probably some coaches, Karen. All right? Simple and incredibly powerful. Again, the quadrant has nothing to do with the directions this time, but on the upper left is God-given talents. Born with them, have them forever. No one can take them away. For me, I'm inquisitive. That's one of them. Some people call it a talent. Some people call it an irritation. Passions. What are you truly passionate about? Not hobbies, not interests, but passions. And on the bottom left, judgment and resentment. What do you have judgment and resentment towards? We all have them. Don't try and tell yourself you don't, because you do. Mine? It's people that can, but they won't. They're capable. They have all the time, all the fingers, all the toes, all the energy, but they just don't want to get off the couch, and they want to live like this. Partly because society, especially in this country, has said, hey, don't worry, we'll take care of you. Drives me nuts. But that's my problem, but I'm honest about it. Society needs. What, in your opinion, does society need? Better teachers, better colleges, better coaches. I don't know, whatever it is for you, write it down. So you write everything that is in each box. You step back, whether you use 4 flip charts or 5 yellow pads, doesn't matter. And then step back and say, okay, this really is me. This really resonates with me. This is who I am. And then write it out. I am this. I stand for this. I believe in that. I have judgment towards this. I believe society would be more powerful. Whatever your language is. Write it out and then record it. And then listen to yourself. When you record your I am statement, and again, being authentic and transparent, it took me 17 times. And on the 18th, I finally got it. What do you think my first 12 or so sounded like? Think of my past. Think of where my head was.
Arrogant.
Arrogant. A commercial, a speech, advertisement. But then I did it again. I took out the words that were almost always about me, being me, instead of me serving others, which is who I am. And when I recorded it for the 18th time, it's 38 seconds. That's all it is. Yours might be 4 minutes. I don't know, whatever it is for you. But record it, share it with a friend, and say, hey, what do you think? It doesn't really matter what they say, but it would be nice for other people to hear it. And some people listen to it every morning. I know Stephen's brother, Doug, who turned me on to this idea, listens to it every night before bed. And he asks himself, was I that man that day? And if not, how are you going to fix it? What are you going to make right tomorrow that you didn't get done today? Based on who you are. And why we have this circle there with Spirit in, because it's all sourced by Spirit. Higher Spirit, Holy Spirit, whatever it is for you. It's your inner stance. It's the essence of what you stand for. And this next one's critical for me. Do something for somebody else because you want to. Don't serve Stephen with the expectation that he's going to do something for you. Serve Stephen because you want to, with no attachment. If he writes a blog about you, mentions you in his book, introduces you to his sister, it doesn't matter. Serve without attachment. Critically important. Stephen's big on distinctions. I've been recognizing how powerful they are to make a point and also to live my life. And here's one of my favorite. Appease or self-reliant. Appeasement, you can come up with whatever definition you want. But at the end of the day, it's to care for someone in either a non-authentic way, to pacify them or coddle them, and I put up yuck. It's just yuck. That's not what this world needs. They need to be served. We need to be served ourselves so we can become self-reliant. Serving another does not mean taking responsibility for another's path or problems. How many times as coaches have you decided, you know what? I'm doing the best I can, but you're still you, and I'm giving you everything I can. You can't accept that. You can't put it in your backpack and walk up the mountain. It's just going to get too heavy and you'll never make it. Does that resonate with anyone? You just have to let them have what they have. And are those being served becoming healthier, wiser, and freer? If they are, that's our job. That's what we do. Helping them become more self-reliant is the issue. And I put in there, unleash your authentic servant instead of your leader. Okay. Who are you being? Is there a lot of stuff in your life that's just stuff? And are you that person because you want to accumulate that stuff? Are you playing it safe? Are you really being authentic? Are you unleashed? Are you shackled? When I was thinking about today, I thought all sorts of definitions of unleash. But the first thing I could come to is just holding back a pack of dogs on a big leash, 2 or 3 or 4 of them, and knowing whatever they want to go do, they want to go do with passion and vision and whatever. And hopefully they're not going to attack somebody, but you can get where I'm going. And when you unleash, what happens to you when you're holding back? There's a release, right? And you get to watch what happens. Well, I don't know who this is for you, but if you can put yourself with a fun, fuzzy collar on, perhaps, and pretend that you're now unleashed, what would your authentic leadership look like? Who would you be? How would you show up? Back to the exercise of how do you occur to others? And are you filled with process? Meaning, I need to do this, and then I need to do that, and then I need to do this, and by the time you're done, it's the end of the month, and your client's already said, sorry. Or are you immediate about things? And are you reasonable? Reasonable gets old. How about being unreasonable? How about asking somebody, would it be unreasonable if? And just seeing what their response is. We've already talked about ego. If you wish to inspire others and lead from a place of service, it needs to be authentic. With all this being said, what will your legacy be? How will you be remembered? You can call it a tombstone, or you can call it this. Who's going to be at your funeral? How many people will be at your funeral? What are they going to say about you? And are they going to be happy you're gone? Are they going to be celebrating your death? Or are they going to be celebrating your life? We laugh, but think about this. And I've been through this experience at a graveyard. If I continued the life I was on, the path I was on, my focus that day was to pretend, what would my funeral look like? Who would be there? Yes, there'd be a lot of people there, maybe from an obligation standpoint, because I made up that particular moment. Then I would probably die in 2 or 3 years. I'm not saying I was sick. I'm just using this as an example. There'd be a lot of people there, and then they do their whatevers, and they go. But if I continue on the trajectory I am now, I think the people there would all come together, and then some of them wouldn't even know each other. But they'd be there to celebrate what connection they might have because of a connector, which I know we all are. But at the end of the day, my legacy is really tied into a couple words. Daddy inspired me. That's it. That's all I want. I want Brooks and or Jackson to stand up in front of whoever's there and say, Dad was inspiration to me. Because of the way he spoke, because of the way he languaged, because of the way he behaved, and the way he related. I don't know what words they will use. Hopefully being in my presence, some of this is going to naturally rub off on them, and some of it might not. But that's my goal, to have 1 or 2 of those guys at my funeral say, Dad inspired me. Think about that. What are they going to say about you? If you're interested in putting a service leadership plan together, or leadership steeped in service plan together for your life or your clients or your relationships, let's work on one. And this is kind of the way to get started. First of all, determine exactly why you do what you do. What is the essence of your profession and what's in your heart? Set intentions for the how and when. We all know there's not much of a plan unless there's a when. We actually get it started, right? Treat yourself and decide to unleash. Remove any barriers that are keeping you from really doing what it is you want to do. And I hope serving others is not only very interesting to you, but has this a sex appeal to it. And it's different, and it's new. And who will you be and who will you serve authentically tomorrow? What are you going to do different tomorrow? You've got some great stuff from Dr. Paul and from Kim and from Julio. What are you actually going to do different tomorrow? How are you going to move? How are you going to talk? What relationship will you inspire? I'd ask you to write down 3 names right now, if you will, please. This is for you, not for me. Who do you need to communicate with differently tomorrow? Tomorrow could be Saturday or could be Monday. And why? How can you authentically serve somebody that's in your life differently tomorrow? For me, one of them is my mom. Authentically speaking, I need to be completely accepting because she is exactly perfect the way she is. Now imagine, though, the Greg of yesteryear saying these words to somebody else about my mom. Yeah, my mom's my biggest client. She doesn't pay me anything, but she's my biggest client or project. Why? Well, because here's what I'm working on with her. It was all about me. I wasn't serving my mom. I was speaking to my mom. I was telling my mom, can comes in can'ts, not can'ts, and all that stuff. But how was I really serving and loving her if I wasn't really hearing what was important to her? Imagine the transformation without doing the same things over and over. You can't serve anybody until you've served yourself. And if you don't apply what you've heard this morning and what we already know, we know inside, if we can't serve ourselves authentically and give ourselves a break every once in a while, it's really hard to have what for someone else? Empathy and compassion. I tell you what, a few years ago, I couldn't even spell empathy. Why compassion? Why can't you take care of yourself? I do. I was raised to take care of myself. I went to high school and college and the first X amount of years of my career taking care of myself. Don't need anybody. People that need other people, coaches, parents, friends, they're weak. Why can't you take care of yourself? Imagine how many people out there right now think they can take care of everything they need. And as you might see in a clip today, or if you've seen the movie, one of the last things I say in the film is, vulnerability is not weak. It's powerful. In fact, it's one of the most powerful things I've ever discovered. The vulnerability and the authentic transparency to say, hey, I need help. I want help. How can you help me? How can you serve me? And when you do that, it's pretty freeing. It's pretty powerful. There's no one in this room that doesn't need to be served by somebody. Call it a coach. Maybe, David, you're onto something. Maybe we should invite more engineers next year. Pair people up. But I believe people like David, who are in his company, they know more about leadership than leadership coaches because they're living it and they're trying to put it together. Now, do they need a coach to help the organization, everybody get it filtered? Sure. But he gets leadership. He's studying leadership. And so am I. And the part I love about the service leadership is you have a chance to serve somebody first and then yourself. Okay. These are my little guys. That's Jackson on the left and Brooks on the right. That was our summer vacation in Durango. That was the first time that I was with these guys all by myself for a week and had an absolute blast. We did everything under the sun. And I tell you, I've learned more from these two little guys than I can imagine I've learned from anyone else. And is there anyone else in the room that shares that same experience? Isn't it amazing? We have to become whatever age I am and whatever age you are. We get these epiphanies. We get these, why didn't I know that at 22? Why didn't I know that at 24? Well, we know why we didn't know that at 16 and 17 and 19 is because we know everything in that age, right? So part of what I do right now is I also work with colleges and universities, and I want to get into the business programs and especially the management programs and speak just a smidgen about leadership and the distinction between leadership and management. And it's really neat to see the kids recognize, wow, what an incredible distinction between management. Now, the millennials now and the next generation after them, do you think, do you think they're going to stand for some of the forceful, autocratic, my way or the highway ways of management? Absolutely not. They don't have the patience. They don't need to have the patience. And what do they have that they have more opportunities than they can shake a stick at? They want to be appreciated. They want to be respected. They want to be heard. They want to be felt, and they want to be made important. Why is that so unique to us? And imagine when these little guys get there. It's not about the information technology or the age or the technology or how fast things are going. In fact, I think it's a burden to the relationships, in my humble opinion, because we don't take the time to just slow down and really engage. Even this morning, I find myself welcoming people like this, welcome, and then I'm on to something else. But some of you I really engaged with this morning, and I got, eye contact and smiles, and who the hell are you in a pink shirt? Why are you hugging me? Why are you welcoming me? Because that's what I do. That's how I feel. That's how I show up. And I'm inviting you to take a little bit of that, who are you and how can you share that, maybe that little kid in you that is stuck inside. Because as little kids, that's all we did was kind of take care of one another. We beat on each other a little bit here and there. But no one told us this. No one told us this either. But the natural way of taking care of another human being was natural. And I think we've gotten away from that. Is there a place for service leadership in your life right now? Yes? Are there relationships? Did everyone write down 3 names? Right? And without saying a name that somebody might know, I'm just going to ask, Monica, who are those 3 people? And don't necessarily need their name, but who are they to you? Who did you pick?
A son, a coworker, and a friend.
A son, a coworker, and a friend. Anybody else? Mom?
Son.
Beautiful. Yes, sir.
Wife, son, and daughter.
That's my stepfather, by the way, George Fitzgerald. No, I didn't pay for them to be here. I was a DJ in college for 3 years, and I promised my mom, back then, we were spinning vinyl. We didn't have all the CDs and stuff. And I made so many tapes, I have no idea where they are. And she said, I'd like to hear a tape every once in a while. And so I promised her to get her a tape. I've never done that. I don't even know where they are anymore. So I don't think she really believed I was a DJ at Fort Lewis College and KDUR. Well, now you can see what I've become, and I am becoming. So now you're here, and it's been videotaped, so now we have proof. Yeah, I would love for them to have a relationship with Mom and George like they've never had before. And we very seldom do we have a chance to have do-overs in life. But right now, both of them, they moved from Northern California to Loveland, Colorado. I want to believe to be closer to me and my boys. My sister lives up in Brighton as well, and she has a son who's 21. And one of the people in my life that I want to serve more authentically is actually my nephew, my sister's son, because I blew it in 05, 06, 07, 08. I was too busy, too rich, too awarded, blah, blah, blah. And when we did communicate, it was like, Zach, I'll do this for you if. Wow, that's service without attachment. It's amazing, though. How many people would you don't have to raise your hand on this one because it might be a little embarrassing. But when I said where my head was, and when I heard the popping sound, was it you? Or were you connected to someone like that in a previous life? And now when you smile at me and the smiles I'm getting, I can tell that it's possible that it happened to some of you. Aren't you glad that that's over? So imagine how unleashed I feel today to be out of corporate America, being in a place where I can do exactly what it is I want to do. And I am honored and humbled to be here today because you're all coaches, for the most part. Michelle and David, parents excluded. But we have a chance to take what we hear, what we read, what we feel, what we want to share from somebody else. A lot of this stuff, and most of the stuff that you guys do, you didn't create. You read it somewhere, you heard it somewhere else, but you give it back to someone with your authentic self. Right? Kim, isn't that what you do?
That's what my intention is, yes.
And all we have to do is give credit to the person that had the great idea. But usually behind that person's great idea was someone else's great idea. The founder of is rare. The user of is not rare. The appreciator of is not very rare at all. But how about the receiver of information and the way we provide it in a way that it's service first and leadership second? That's all I ask you to consider today. A lot of information and a lot of asks to do things different. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
I actually have a comment because I also grew up in the sales world, all of that. And after listening to you and thinking about this full authentic leadership, a lot of my leadership was tied into numbers, only numbers. I wanted my salespeople to produce only numbers. I was only evaluated on numbers, and everything was related to that. There was absolutely nothing authentic about that type of leadership. And it's very interesting as a coach when we're coaching others to ask them, what are you tied into? Because you can really see what's authentic and what's not. So that's just an observation that I had after listening to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you want to finish, because I have a question.
I think she had a comment, not a question, so.
Just an observation.
Observation, yes.
This is an incident that happened, and because the word authentic has been used a lot today, it just keeps bringing me back to something that happened about 4 months ago. I was in a networking group, and the leader happens to say, this is a place where you get to be your true authentic self. There's no, they're saying all of that and everything. And it is good. However, there was a guy there, and we did a little breakout group, and he was sitting there with a little cup and spitting tobacco juice in it across from me. And we were all talking, and I thought, okay, am I being authentic with myself if I don't say anything? Or should I go up and talk to her, which that was her honey, and say, this is kind of gross, whatever. And so I had a little wrestle there of what's authentic for me. And I did go up and speak, and she said, well, he's being his true authentic self. So now I'm wondering, are we going to water down the word authentic, or be able to use it as a weapon in a sense of being able to say, well, he's being authentic, well, she's being authentic, that's the way they're being. And I would love to have that as a conversation so that we don't ever get there in that spot of, well, so you're smoking, you're being your authentic self, but it's, that type of thing.
But in a great point, I would address it a couple ways. There's got to be a filter of being courteous.
Right.
Because the long word I said earlier, being conscientious, kind and considerate. I don't think we'll ever get away from that. And if someone's not being kind and considerate and just being flat out authentic to a point where he or she is rude, then I think socially it's okay to say, hey, your tobacco spitting is annoying me or bothering me. Now, he or she could also, and I say she because maybe there's some lady chewers out there, she may say, I'm sorry my spitting's bothering you, and why don't you go be your authentic self somewhere else? By the way, my wife and I are happy, and you can go sit with the non-spitters. Yeah, that's a tough one.
It is, because I can see it where we end up being, using the word authentic, fluff-like, when it has such a wonderful opportunity right now in what we're discussing to really make an impact, a good, solid, positive impact.
And I think we have to always be caring and kind and considerate first. I mean, the root of service is love. The root of love is to care. And blended with that, yeah, I mean, do it in an authentic way. I don't think being rude authentically is what it's all about, but you bring up an interesting challenge. Yes, ma'am?
I've been back, and I'm good. I was like, okay, I guess I'm no longer going to come here, and that was my choice. So.
It is kind of odd to have someone chewing in an environment like that, but if you're at a tailgate, and that might be a little different.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
And I had said that after I'd seen him do this more than one meeting.
I would call it a habit. Yes, ma'am.
I agree that the word authentic has been used a lot today, and I thought about it over the lunch hour myself, and so I'm kind of glad you brought it up, because I do think it is on trend, I guess. And to me, in this situation, if you choose to say something, or if you choose not to say something,
Right.
because of the cultural norms, we've talked a lot about corporate America in our other group that Kim led, and are you being authentic if you do say something or you don't say something, and all of that. To me, the authenticity comes within ourselves, and for helping our clients get to that level of conscious awareness.
Right.
That to me is where authenticity lies. And I think that if you are bothered by it, but you choose not to say something, as long as you're consciously aware of the choices that you're making and how you're adapting and affecting to the culture or to the environment, that's your choice, and that's being authentic to you. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
And I think that sometimes as coaches, it's easy to encourage people to bring out their authentic self and not to be afraid or to affect the company culture or to whatever. Well, maybe that does need to happen, but I think it's choosing their response and helping guide them through how they're being authentic to their beliefs and their values and their ethics.
Well, a couple good points there. In terms of coaching, I mean, clearly it's about your client, not about you. Leadership, it's about them and not you. You want to bring out their authentic self. And we're talking about being authentic leaders today in a way of serving others. For me, I put them together. I gave both of these ladies a book written by Stephen Begee, who's going to he's our final keynote today. He's not talking, you're very welcome. It's not about his book that he's speaking to, but I give it to you because authentic to me is all of this. Get Real, the title of this book. Stephen does a masterful job of just helping you and your clients get real. And it's kind of a no excuse way of answering the question all the time, really? But it's a really step-by-step way of getting real versus worrying about, what does authentic mean? I think Get Real gets to the point.
And in that scenario, or in that situation, I mean, he was very content to continue to do that. There was something there, but then also his girlfriend, saying he's being his authentic self. And the body language was there's no open for conversation.
She is his biggest fan.
I would have pushed it in the past, like I've got to get my attitude or my idea across to you, and it's like, that's just where they are, and I can find other groups.
You bet. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, sir.
I know Greg for a long time, 30 years.
That is a long time.
I've seen everything that he's talking about. It's a very honest discussion that he's had. As I once told Greg that our strengths and weaknesses Your weakness is you're selfish, but it's also your strength. You take all the money you made. And I felt like that. And over the last 2 years, I kind of changed my opinion that his strength and our weakness seemed to be trying to serve people. And he's obviously been turning that into something that's very strengthful for him and for everybody in this room. One of the things that Greg has shown me, and I have practiced it, is speak to the one who matters. If you're worried about somebody that's offending you, be sure to talk to them about it. However that comes about, speak to the one who matters. Don't ever go behind the corner here and say, well, I just wish Joe would just do this, thinking that, oh yeah, he's going to tell Joe and Joe will do this. Don't talk to Joe. It's sometimes difficult. It's been difficult for me at times, but I think it works. Another thing that, as you being coaches, that I have experienced also, having been in production most of my life, is that it's always the third superintendent who's the good guy. Well, that's because the first superintendent did all kinds of failures, the second and the third finally put wide on their shoulders. As you're talking to managers who are going to say, I don't care about this touchy stuff, or go ahead and talk about it, but make sure you give me the bottom line or you're going to be fired. It's so much better, and Weston management teaches this. Let that guy make the mistake. And the first time he makes a mistake, it's going to cost them the company $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000. They don't fire him. To make sure he understands and learns from that. By the way, he's going to make another mistake a little further down the road. It's going to be 1,000, then 100, and then guess what? He's going to earn 100, 1,000, $1 million. The line always goes up like this. If you have trust in your employees, and as long as that employee wants to succeed. So when you're coaching people that are going to make these decisions, talk to them about the Weston theory. And here is a proof in the pudding. The NFL. For years and years and years, I was a football player. We didn't care about anything except hitting or being hit and hitting harder and hurting.
Now they're hitting people outside the game.
Now, yeah. But guess what? Guess who changed it? Junior Seau. Junior Seau killed himself, the strongest man in the world. And now the NFL, everybody in the NFL is starting to think about everything you guys are talking about now.
A couple points I want to, first of all, I appreciate your comments. When this came out the other day too, when we're communicating with somebody about somebody, have the courtesy to make sure that they're involved in the conversation. That's true service. There's nothing worse than talking about someone when they're not around. Servant leader kind of comes down to these 10 things. And we're running out of time to kind of dive into them too deep. But listening, we talked about that. Empathy, healing, awareness, persuasion, conceptualization, foresight, stewardship, creativity, commitment to the growth of people, and building community. And this one down here, commitment to the growth and development of people, that's what Aden leadership is all about. One person, two people, 5 at a time. And again, servant leadership, serve first, lead next, and do it in a way that is who you are. We talked about your I am statement. We talked about how you occur to people. Spend some time away from everybody else and go figure out exactly who you are. Or as Steve likes to say, who you be. And when you find out who that person is, go out and care for, love, and serve others in a way you've never done it before. And if that's authentic, or if that's real, as long as it's you. I love what Dr. Paul said. You is enough. You are enough. You're exactly the way you're supposed to be today. I love that. Can you be better tomorrow? I don't know. Don't know enough about you. But I do appreciate you all being here. I appreciate the time, the attention. I think it's a critical topic. Everything that we're talking about today through ICF Colorado and how we're trying to help people change each other's lives, it's a great mission. And I think we have a long way to go. But like I said earlier, I love the direction we're going. We're heading northeast. Unless there's anything else, I just want to, again, say how honored I am to be here and how humble I am to be here. And I thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.